Hey, everybody. On the show today, I have somebody that I met at a conference a couple of years ago, and I was just enthralled with the amount of energy that she had as she was standing on stage doing her sales presentation. Super cool lady. Her name is Moira Ní Ghallachóir, and Moira and I laughed through just about the entire interview. And while we were laughing, Moira talked about her story of how she left her corporate job in London and took the risk of becoming an entrepreneur and what that looked like for her and how she travels globally to help people overcome their fear of sales. She also shares how she manages her high energy level while she's traveling back and forth across the pond. My name is Emmy Kirshner. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. The one thing that I get asked all the time is, how do you achieve success in business and make an impact? In each episode of the Tribe of Leaders podcast, you'll hear from entrepreneurs and visionaries who share how their leadership has changed not only their lives, but the lives of everybody around them. Hey, everybody. I am with our first international guest from Ireland. And I know you're going to share your story, but for me, you are the sales guru. So welcome, everybody. This is Moira Ní Ghallachóir. Love your name now that I can say it correctly. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Emmy. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to share with everybody a little bit about who you are. Mm-hmm. And we were just talking before we started recording, like you're all over the country, both Ireland and here in the States. So yeah, please introduce yourself.
I'm back and forth across that pond like nothing normal, getting great upgrades and lots of air miles.
But you're living the dream, which is amazing.
Well, it would seem so. Be careful what you wish for.
Right? Things manifest.
They certainly do. No, I'm having a great time. Like, my business is definitely global. I have clients in, like we were saying, in America and Ireland, in the UK and France, Australia. So yeah, it's a whole mixture of time zones, which brings its own challenges, let me tell you.
Yeah. Now, do you do coaching calls like in the middle of the night? Because I know some people who have had, a global presence, they're up at 3 o'clock in the morning because that's when it works for somebody.
Yeah, no, I've been okay with that. I think 8 o'clock in the evening would probably be the last session that I would do, but then maybe as early as 7 or 8 then, but not anything more. And we usually just find a place where we can work from. You want to be, everything is transient, working with me as well, because we just move the times around just to suit whatever people have going on. But no, it works. It is a challenge. It works, but it's a really great vibe. On my mastermind the other night, there was Africa, there was Australia, there was America, there was London. It was just such a wow, everybody was just from all over, and obviously Ireland as well. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, no, it's great. It's what I wanted to build, and here I have it.
Yeah, I love it. That's amazing. So share your backstory, because I think you have one of the most fun journeys in entrepreneurship that anybody has ever had.
I'm glad it looked like fun. No, I'm joking.
Experiences while you were there were you've created some really I'm just going to use the word fun over and over again because that's
I definitely do like to have fun, and hopefully people get into business and they make sure that they do have fun. That's a big part of it. It's a big part of what I do. But I was not having fun while I was living in London. I was living there for about 6 years as a youth worker. I used to work with young people who were on the streets of London, in between homes, either had a home, potentially could become homeless, and then they would get to work with me to make sure that didn't happen. And it was coaching, it was coaching them on a better life, but it was just on a different level. I did that for about 6 years, and around about my 35th birthday, I just really hit a wall, and I was like, what the hell am I doing? Is this all I want? Is this my life? This Monday to Friday rat race? And just really questioning everything about who I was and not really being clear on who I was. I'd just become this youth worker, and I was a party girl at the time as well, as you can imagine, living in London. It's just, there was so much to do. I was traveling, fashion shows, everything. And then I just, really started to tap into what was in my heart and be like, is this what I really want? And one of the key things I did, speaking of fun, I wasn't having fun at the time. So I took myself off to Paris for my birthday. And while I was there, I just started writing lists of the things I really wanted wanted to do and the things I would really love to do. And it was while I was there that I realized that it wasn't, a job I needed, and it wasn't, more money that I needed. It was that I needed to move home and be with my family in Ireland, because I had never lived really with my family as an adult, because I left home when I was 18. So I moved back to Donegal, which is this tiny, beautiful corner of Ireland, which was voted the coolest place on the planet by the National Geographic in 2017. So it's not completely unheard of. I moved back to this tiny place, and like straight away, I was just like, oh my God, this place is so amazing. And the beaches, the mountains, the castles, the people, the culture, the language. But all around me, there was nothing but businesses closing and people suffering and people leaving. And I was just like, let's do something about this. This just should not be this way. So over about 2 years, I connected with all of the local business owners, all of the outdoor enthusiast guys, and I started creating heart-led adventures. So like mini cultural and adventure retreats that are really heart-led, so that you would get an experience of a place that you would not be able to buy online. Like for me, it was beyond 5-star. I did that for about 2 years and people loved it. I loved it. It was just amazing. But I never really did it for the money, Emmy. And as every business owner knows, you can only run on empty for so long, right?
Right.
And I did that for 2 years. And then I learned so much about what was holding businesses back that I realized that it was the sales aspect that they were all shying away from. Not even shying away from it to the point where they hated it. The word sales made people cringe, and getting customers are like, no, I don't know anything about that stuff. And I was
I'm not good at sales. I'm not good at sales.
I don't want to be pushy. No, we don't do any. And it was, as soon as you mentioned, like, how are you getting customers back? Oh, we don't do anything pushy here. You're just like, wow, you really have this wall up against it. And I'm like, no wonder you're not making any money. So I set about trying to help local businesses get more customers and make more sales. And I came up with ways that they could inspire customers to come and want to work with them, as opposed to feeling like they had to sell it. And then I started speaking about what I was doing. And then before I knew it, I had a full client base of coaching clients. I started speaking and all over the country, anywhere that would give me 5 minutes to say who I was and what I was doing. And then I went to an event in America, which was a real turning point for me, because I didn't really understand the entrepreneurial space. Went to this event and I was just like, holy shit, what is this? There's thousands of them. Everybody wants to do this. And it just really opened my eyes to, what I was creating, but I had no idea the possibility that you could have with that, because that just was not my area. So then obviously I connected with loads of people there, and I've been coming to events and speaking at events in America myself over the last 3 years, and I've been able to grow my business up to 500,000, which I was extremely proud of at the beginning of the year. So here's to a 7-figure year.
Yeah. Let's also add that that's €500,000, right?
That's €500,000. Very good point. I actually thought about that the other day. I was like, it's actually closer. If I base myself here, it's closer to 7 figures already. But so 7 figures, let's hope, is inevitable this year for me. So
that's amazing. I love it. And you and I met a couple of years ago while you were speaking at an event.
Right. Yeah. It was one of the first events that I spoke at in America, actually.
Really?
Orlando, yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the transition for you, from doing the traveling to business coach and sales coach? Was it really just seeing the need that a lot of entrepreneurs don't know how to sell, or afraid of selling, and don't want to be that used car sales person?
I think, I think that the key thing was, it was this was a zone of genius for me. I was really good at this, but I wasn't necessarily aware at how hard other people found it. So this was a talent that I had, because I was just able to make connections, get on the phone, make things happen really, really quickly without doing anything complicated, literally starting conversations, but being crystal clear about where I wanted that conversation to go and how it could benefit both of us if we went there, and that's just something, I did door-to-door sales when I was a student in college. So maybe it came from that. I don't know. But even doing that was just, for me, it was just out having fun and just chatting to people. And it was the more fun I would have on a day's work, the more people would sign up with me. And people are always like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, I'm just out there having fun with people. And then because, they what I've got to say, then they're more interested in buying it.
Right. So the whole rejection piece that people get so wrapped up in their head about, right, was not ever really a thing for you.
No, I just don't think. It's always been a numbers game for me. You know, and this is sales, and that doesn't mean that you can't, be inspired and be really authentic with what you're doing but you have to be led by something, because you don't want to be led by your emotions, because that will lead you to being broke and confused and afraid, and you won't do anything. But if you're really led by the numbers will really set you free. And it can feel more like a game when you're playing with the numbers. And some of my most successful clients, they get it, that this is actually a game. Sure, when somebody signs up to work with them and they want to, do something amazing with their lives or their business, that's serious. But actually getting to that point, that has to be the fun part, and then you get down to the nitty gritty then when you've both decided you're right for each other.
So how do you help people take the emotion out and really just start playing the game so that they know what numbers they need to hit?
Yeah. The biggest thing is for people to recognize what's feelings and what's facts and what they're doing, and get out of the story. So I find that a lot of entrepreneurs get really caught up in their clients' stories about why they can't work with them, what's holding them back and all of that. And you're like, but if you actually look at the facts of what they're saying, is that true? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, so why are you accepting what they're saying to you as their truth when it's not? Right. And it's really like cutting through the bullshit and getting to the point. And like sometimes you have to, I think that entrepreneurs are afraid to go there. They're afraid to cross that line a little bit in case they're seen as salesy, as pushy. But, I had this conversation with one of my clients the other day. You've literally been able to save somebody $20,000. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, so why don't you go out now and push a whole lot more people to make the decision to allow you to help them with that as well? Because when you think about it, what are you really pushing people towards? The life of their dreams, more money, more sales, more speaking gigs, more stages, because when working with a coach, you're going to get more of something. Do you know what I mean? So it's like getting it away that you're not pushing people to give you money, but you're pushing people towards their dreams,
right?
What they want. Their joy and, their pleasure and their desires and all of the things that are really important to them. It's not about the money. And I think that's the biggest thing. If business is about money, but whether somebody works with you or not, that's rarely about the money. It's really about whether you connect with them and you can show them that you're the person who's going to help them.
Right. I think that's so important. And as a coach too, like with entrepreneurs, I think you have the great opportunity to be that outside person and really help them grow into something bigger than they may be seeing at that time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And, to a degree, you have to learn tactics and strategies. Of course you do. But really, if you're, not making more than six figures or even like $250,000, you're still very much having conversations with people. That is the fastest way to grow your business. So if you allow yourself to become an expert at listening and understanding people and really listening for the truth and really helping people see the stories they're telling themselves that are holding them back in their lives, I mean, that's the biggest service you could ever do to somebody, whether they buy from you or not. And I think that's really delivering value.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it. So what do you have in store for this year?
This year is a roller coaster year. So I'm in North Carolina now. Lots of live events that I'm attending because I love networking, I love learning, and I love seeing what other people are doing. So doing a lot of that. Then I'm running my own retreat for my own clients in Dublin in April. Then I've got a few speaking gigs at different conferences around Ireland. Then I'm doing some gigs with the eWomen Network. And then I'm doing my own event in Ireland in October. So if anybody wants an excuse to come to Ireland and have their mind blown over 3 days of amazing content and in one of the most magical places in the world, then definitely follow me this year and we'll see if we can get you a ticket.
That would be awesome, right?
You should come.
I just might. You never know.
You should come. I think a stage in Ireland is calling you.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. And if not this year, as I said, my kid's going off to college, so my time locationally speaking has just been free. Well, will be freed up in August. So my whole plan is move into Philly and then move around.
Because you can, I've been in Philadelphia so many times at this stage, but I've never been in Philadelphia, but I know that airport so well. I just love Philadelphia for Rocky. Rocky is like one of my favorite movies of all time. If I could only watch Rocky over and over again, I would, every one of them. So
really?
I love it. So
is that what you binge watch?
I have been known to binge watch a bit of Rocky.
And what is it that appeals to you?
I guess it's the underdog, isn't it? It's that, and it's the heart. It's just the heart that's in it. And I think that, one of my first events was called Business with Heart, actually. But if we can lead doing business with our hearts, you know, like nothing will stand in our way. Nothing will stand in your way. Like nothing stood in his way. And he's such a lovely, lovely man. But I just love the story of him being the underdog and the person, the unassuming person. And I think that's the entrepreneur's journey, you know, because
it totally is.
Yeah. And it's not that it comes natural. And I do think that some entrepreneurs think that, you know, it's going to be one thing that's going to do it. It was like with Rocky, it wasn't one fight. It was fighting his whole entire life, but he was brilliant at it, you know? Right. And it's like when there's no, and the thing was, it was like even with business, okay, we're on the whole business Rocky thing, but the magic is in the struggle. That was his whole life was a struggle, but it was a magical struggle. Mm-hmm. And this is with business. Growing your business is a struggle. Doing what you have to do day to day, pulling yourself from one thing and dragging yourself to pick up the phone, going to those networking events. It is a struggle, but the results are magical. And it's who you become by doing that is the person who's going to be able to have the life of freedom and pay yourself whatever you want to pay yourself and live wherever you want to live. Like literally, I planned out my year this year to be like 4 weeks in Europe and Ireland. And then 6 weeks away, 4 weeks away, 6 weeks at home, that kind of thing. Because that's the way I want to live my life for the time being. Who knows what I want to do next year? But this is what you get your business working for the kind of life that you want to create. And that's right. What I think freedom really is.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not here to be slaving away. And not, again, that there aren't struggles. Like, I think that's part of what makes entrepreneurship and growing your business so exciting is that it's a constant challenge in a good way where you're learning and you're stepping up and you're meeting the new need. And it's just one step after another. Like the challenge Absolutely. May be different, but it's something new all the time.
It is. And you know what? Like something I've really learned is like you've got to stop and take a look at what's happening sometimes. Because I can wrap myself up in my business so much. Like I could go maybe blast through like 3 weeks and I'm like, what the hell just happened? You know, because you're going to events, you're doing everything. But like if you don't stop and just get present to what's happening, you miss it. You know, you'd miss acknowledging like, look at you. You know, you're speaking all over the world. You're paying yourself 10,000 that I'm making in my business to pay myself to live my life every month. But you just, because everything moves so fast, you can miss it. So one of the key things for me and this year is really just taking a moment to just breathe it in and be like, look what you're doing. You know, look how far you've come and look how far you can still go.
It's amazing. So share with us, because you said you planned out your year so that you were doing the 4 weeks, 6 weeks. How did you do that? Like, what was your process? Because I think this is something, and it's that not being present piece, but it's like people aren't doing that. They're not looking at their year, their life, or the month, or even the day and being like, this is how I want to show up and experience it.
Yeah, no, great question. So last year I spent 6 months of the year living in Paris because that was something that I wanted to do. But it was a year before that I planned that I wanted to do that. So this literally comes down to making a decision and saying, here, this is where I'm going and this is what I want to do. But what I did this year, about 3 months before the end of 2018, I started looking at all of the places that I would love to visit and the places that I would love to speak and people that I had connected with that, you know, invited me to either attend their event or speak at their event. So then I started saying, okay, so I'd really love to go to North Carolina. Here I am in North Carolina. So then because I knew I was coming here, then I was able to build in other opportunities all around it. So yes, I'm in North Carolina, but I've been to Nashville. I'm going to Vegas. I've got a couple of events here. I spoke at an event here. So then you build your business. You build all these opportunities around this one reason to be somewhere. Do you know what I mean? So I've done that for the rest of the year. So like say in May, I'm going to go to Orlando. So, of course, I reached out to different groups around Orlando and I've booked 3 speaking gigs in and around Orlando and 1 in New York because it's on the East Coast. So then I'm like, okay, so there's 6 weeks. So I can just get an Airbnb. I can, you know, do my business and then I can go to these events. I can, you know, be somewhere where I can experience new things, but still run my business from. And it is literally just like that. And in between all this, you know, I've hired somebody to help me plan an actual holiday. One that don't work. Many speaking gigs. Although now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, because I want to go to Japan, right? So I've hired a travel counselor to help me plan that out because I'm like, I don't actually have the time to do that plan. But now it looks like I'm either going to be going at the end of July or the end of November. But I decided like 2 months ago that was going to happen this year. And this is it. If you don't make these decisions and say this is what's going to happen, even if it doesn't work out, even if I never get to Japan this year, I might get in January of 2020 2020 because I've got the plan. It's literally picking up the phone and booking it then. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think we can make it a lot easier on ourselves than we really do. And also like get people to help you. That's another thing.
How do you do that? Like, how do you get people to help you locationally be in so many places? And how do you connect with all these speaking gigs?
Yeah. So obviously looking back at all the events that I've ever been to, all of the business cards that I've ever had, that I've ever picked up, they're usually some of the biggest sources of ideas on where to speak. So I would call people and I'd be saying like, what are some of the great events that you spoke at or attended last year, and get some ideas that way. And then if it sounds like it's something that could be good for me, I might ask somebody to make an introduction for me, or to give me the name and the number of the organizer. And then you're not sort of cold calling. You're like, I met, Mary, and she said it was a great event and something that, my message might work well with. Are you open to having a conversation about that? And yeah, I just do it like that, And I think you just need a little bit of momentum here,
Right.
Like when I started, when you reach out for speaking gigs, it can feel really daunting and people are like, oh my God, how do I do this? But do it in a really soft, like minimal approach. Are you looking for any outside speakers? Full stop. Yes or no.
Yeah.
Right. So the person can either say yes or no. And if they say no, cool. If they say yes, they'll probably say, send us more information. But I think the key for them even wanting to respond for you is to have your email signature all like dressed up with testimonials, places you've spoken at, maybe any books that you've written, podcasts that you have. So at a glance, they know you're someone,
Right.
you're not. So the worst thing you can do is just have a blank email that, because they'll just think it's going to be spam. So you want to be saying, so it's like you're inadvertently sending this big little, this like sort of, how would you call it, unintentional marketing sort of campaign to them, because they just look at your email and be like, and I have not written a book, but I've co-authored many books, and I have the 3D copy of the book in my email signature. And I don't know how, and it says very clearly, I co-authored this book, but it doesn't matter. People just see book and they're like, oh, you've written a book. And I'll always cry and say, yes, I co-authored a book. But because it just gives authority, it means that somebody else somewhere thought you were good enough. So it makes their decision easier. And people don't want hard decisions. They want to know that you're qualified and good and you can just tick a box and that you're going to be good for their audiences. Right. So make it easy for people to say yes to you. That's my number one thing.
Well, and ask.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that's the first step, is just ask.
Just ask, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And don't be afraid about asking for those bigger gigs, because if somebody is doing a big gig, they're more than likely able to point you in some smaller ones if they say, I don't think this one would be right for you just yet. But here's some smaller places or some hosts that organize smaller events where you could start somewhere. I literally started locally in Donegal. I was speaking at, local business events, International Women's Day. I think I spoke at an International Women's Day event, which is today. Happy International Women's Day, everyone. Oh, no, it's not. Shit. It was a couple of months ago. But yeah, just those small local events. And I think people are afraid to look locally, because they want to, somebody would rather speak on a stage 200 miles away with 200 strangers than they would to speak locally. But I got some of my best first clients locally, and it showed local people what I was doing. So I got a lot of referrals and a lot of support from people. So I think it's good to start local as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even just speaking in front of some of your friends, they're going to support you no matter what.
Yeah, totally. I got one of my clients recently. She was, nervous about speaking. And just like you, she had this big, massive sitting room. And I was like, what are you doing with this big, beautiful room here? And she was like, what do you mean? And I says, well, I can totally see how you could have an event. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And then before you knew it, 2 weeks later, she was hosting her own mini event. She got 10 people to come. She got one client from it. And I'm like, you had 10 people to your house and you got one client. That's a score. How many hours on Facebook would you need to spend to be able to get that result? Plus, she got to practice her talk. And of course, her friends got to learn more about what she was about.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and I think people, at least in my area, are looking for that more live, personal, meaningful connection. Yeah. And not that they want to be off social media, because I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but they want the intimacy of just having a conversation. Yeah.
I was thinking about this before the call, that one of the conversations that I had at that one of the first events I ever attended, this man from New York, and he was really inspired about what I was doing with tours and things. And just that one conversation at a bar at the end of the evening, at the end of the event, he ended up sending a family to Ireland to come on one of my tours. At the time, it was their 50th wedding anniversary, but there was 10 of them. And they had such an amazing experience. And not only that, like I think something like 15 different local businesses got to really benefit from that as well. So just that one conversation and just the ripple effect that can cause. I had a conversation with a girl in Paris, and she was selling her program for something like $50 at the time. And then just from hearing what I had to say and then listening to what I was telling her how she could do more, she's now traveling the world, speaking on stages, and she's closed 50,000 in sales in less than 6 months. But for me, it all starts with a conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's amazing. So share with us too, I'm a little curious about your traveling and everything. How do you stay so energized if you're going back and forth in all the time zones?
How do I do it? Okay, business class really helps.
Yeah.
That is probably one of the biggest investments that you can make when you're traveling. Right. We have a great thing with Aer Lingus where you can bid for an upgrade. So you don't have to pay like thousands. You can pay like about anywhere between 500 and 1,000. That is gold. I hate traveling coach these days. So trying to
the cattle car.
Well, just start thinking like, what is it worth to me to feel like shit for 3 or 4 days when I'm going somewhere? Like it's like as entrepreneurs, like that's costing you money. So it's a total investment. So that would be one thing. The next thing would be obviously meditating and really looking after yourself and taking time out. Those are 2 big things. And yoga, those are my go-to things. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, I absolutely love what I do. I'm inspired by even having the opportunities to do what I'm doing. I'm not that healthy. I could be a lot healthier, I think, but I'm glad that I come across as full of energy and hopefully a little bit healthy as well.
Yeah. Well, you do. You radiate like a really positive energy, and anytime I've seen you, I think you just have endless amounts of energy. So
it is a little scary sometimes for people.
I think it's a really good thing.
Can you imagine what I was like 10 years ago when I was living in London and I was like out all the time in bars and clubs? I was just like a rocket. I was just like, it was always going. But I think I've been able to use that energy much more wisely since I moved into the entrepreneurial space. And it's almost the same thing. You're going out and you're meeting people and you're, making connections. It's no different, but this time you're actually having an impact. You're having a big income and you're, using the entrepreneurial spirit that we all have, but using it to its best. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm going to kind of throw a curveball in here because I'm really curious what you're going to say. Do you have a 5-year plan and what your business will look like?
Do I have a 5-year plan? So a year ago, I was working on my 5-year plan and I actually had something written down saying, what are you doing at the moment? I'm like, I'm creating my 5-year plan. I do and I don't. I kind of flick back and forth in between like, no, I just need to focus on this year. And then I'm starting to think, what is the end goal for me? Where do I actually want to take this? And I think the only place I can really see that I want to take this right now is what I want to do with my personal income, number one. So I want to grow my personal income to 20,000 a month. That would be a dream for me. I want to cut my hours down to 20 hours a month. And I want to create a space where more of my clients are coming to Donegal, where I'm from. And I'm running much more events and retreats where it's actually giving back to the community, which was actually the reason I started my business for in the first place. But I want to be that's where I want to be headed. And obviously part of that is going to be, having a team and maybe leaning more into doing events as opposed to just coaching. So yeah, that's what for me, it's going to be less work and more money. That's really the ultimate goal for me.
I love it. And I think if you are having more retreats in Ireland too, like that kind of circles back to where you started.
Totally.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's mad because when I first, started out to do this, I was looking for like one person at a time, to come to Ireland or to come on one of my tours. Whereas the network that I've built up over the last 3 years, it's like most people, even you're probably going to have your own international mastermind at some stage. So maybe you could bring like 10 people to Ireland. And it's like all of a sudden I have all these connections who have groups as opposed to me trying to find one at a time. And I never really set out to do that, but now I can see how that can really manifest. And I know that when people go there, they're just so moved by the experience. I'm not talking about typical Ireland, like Kerry or like Cork, and those are really beautiful places, but they are really overrun with tourists. Where I'm from in Donegal, you're talking about one of the quietest, most untouched places on the planet. There's nowhere more authentic. Everybody still speaks the language. You know, a car would stop if you were driving, be like, where are you from? What are you doing here? You know, like everybody knows each other, and it's one of the most welcoming and heartfelt places in the world. I've had people who've come there and they just start crying because of the energy around the mountains and the valleys and the mythology and the history. It's mind-blowing. It's one of the oldest places on the planet.
I was say, what a gift you're giving everybody by doing that, because you're allowing them to step out of the kind of the chaos of everyday life, and really have time to just breathe and
connect with something. And I think that being an entrepreneur, you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself at just not like, I know myself, but at a core level. And I think sometimes one of the things that really helped me when I moved back to Ireland that time when I left my job, I literally like stripped myself back to, you know, who am I going to be now? You know, but it was the culture, it was roots, it was family, it was, you know, values. It was all of those really core things that I had. They were all mixed up for me, you know, but going to a place like Donegal that's so pure and raw and authentic and enriching and magical and inspiring, that really feeds you on so many levels. And for entrepreneurs, I think that it'll probably be one of the most moving, inspiring experiences that they could ever have.
All right, well, I'm going to come. Ireland's on my bucket list of places to go. I've never been.
Totally come. Totally.
I'm sold.
Most people are, and when they go there, they're just really like, oh my God, it's really like this. And you're like, it is, it's really like this.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's like paradise.
And the weather is not that bad. If anybody's just like, yeah, but what about the weather? I'm in North Carolina. I can tell you, if I look at the weather in Donegal, it's probably a little bit better.
Really? Is it warmer?
Not bad. Well, I think what you find in Donegal, you get like a lot of seasons in the day. And for me, it's like you wake up in the morning, it might be windy and it might be a bit wet. Then there's some sunshine. So you've got like a beautiful bright sky. Then it gets a bit cloudy. And then the light turns to this like amazing golden, you're like, what's going on out there? You look outside and it's just the light. And it's like, sometimes people say, this is why we are so creative there. And like, there's so many amazing artists in music, you know, Enya, Clannad, that's where they're from. And a lot of it is because the weather's like this. It changes all the time. Like there's no one day where it's just like that. It's just like you don't know what's going to happen next. It's wild.
I love it. Yeah, definitely have to come. I want to circle
you're
back.
Absolutely invited.
I want to circle back into the sales piece briefly, because you have a super cool, if you are hesitating with your sales, definitely download this. But you have a gift for everybody.
Yeah, I do. And like I was saying at the start, I really do think that the core of everything you do and how you approach your business is around starting conversations. And that most people are going to rooms and going to events and they're walking out with nothing because they're not really sure how to lead into anything. So I did a survey of about 100 entrepreneurs, all making 6 and 7 figures. And I was like, what are those like key questions that you ask people when you go to events that avoid you going into the friend zone or avoid you going into the, you know, this conversation is going nowhere zone, and actually end up, you know, to a place where you might actually get a high level client. And I put them all on this really cool guide, and I've given all my tips on networking and all the reasons that I think networking is one of the fastest paths to grow your business if you haven't hit 6 figures yet. And yeah, I put it all in a cool guide. It's called 15 Powerful Conversation Starters. And I'd love everybody here to have a copy of it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So the link is in the show notes. Yeah. Everybody download it. I think I had it a couple of years ago, and it was brilliant.
Oh, good. I think it's really good to have something on your phone when you're going to networking events to just look at it and be like, okay, yeah, that's why I'm here. That's what I'm doing. Because we can be so heady and be like, oh, what if nobody likes me, or
I don't know anybody, or
I know. Yeah. But if you make it more of a mission and set an intention when you walk in that door, you will walk out with what you want.
Right. Absolutely. Share with everybody too how they can connect with you.
Yeah, my Facebook business page is mng.ie, which is my initials. .ie is for Ireland. And that's the same on Instagram. And then it's Moira Ní Ghallachóir on Facebook if anybody wants to friend me there as well. And it's moira.ie. That's my website. So you can connect with me in many different ways. If anybody wants to come to Ireland or ask me about sales or anything like that, you're welcome to get in touch with me anytime.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. My world traveling friend.
I'm giving you the travel bug.
Yeah. I love it. Your solo book could be about growing your business as you travel the world.
Yeah, could be. It could be. That's definitely something that's on the cards.
Yeah.
I think that, it's just time to sit down and actually write my own book once and for all. So,
yeah, it would be absolutely a blast.
I bet you've got a book, don't you?
I co-authored a book a couple of years ago, and I'm kind of playing with what I want to do now for my own thing, but it's not, I don't have a cohesive thought process right this second. So it's all up there swirling and creative.
It's gonna come together.
Oh yeah, it will. That'll probably be the next year type of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. So, and thank you again for being on the show. It was so much fun to hang out with you, as always.
Yeah, it was.
And for everybody watching and listening, thank you, and we will see you next week. Have you ever thought about those times when if you had just known that one thing, it would have saved you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, or maybe days, weeks, or even months of your time? I've created the Tribe of Leaders membership community for exactly that reason, to give you the tools, the resources, and the support to make growing your business a snap. As a member, you'll have access to video training, live monthly training and masterminds, and special co-working days that will help you run your business like the CEO that you are. You can get all the details at thetribeofleaders.com. See you there.